Hi, my name is Laura Whaley. I'm an agency consultant here at Kite Technology. Today, I want to thank you for joining me for another webisode of our Consulting Corner. I'm going to cover with you today the Workload Reassignment Utility that can be found in Epic. There are some common workload reassignments that can be found here, but others may take you by surprise. So let's jump over into Epic and take a look. And here we are on our home base in Epic. To get to the workload reassignment, you're going to choose Utilities from your navigation pane, then Reassign, and choose the Workload Reassignment. This brings up the main Workload Reassignment page. This is where you'll find any previously run workload reassignments or where you can add a new one. To look at the types of workload reassignments available, I'm going to go ahead and add a new workload reassignment. Once you choose the Add icon, you'll be prompted to enter an appropriate description. Here I'm just going to use Amend Account Manager. Down below, you'll be able to add as many reassignments as needed. To add the first, you'll choose the Add icon. By default, your first reassignment type is Client. However, if you choose the drop-down, you can see that there are many types. We'll go through them now. The first is Activity. This will enable you to reassign activities based on set criteria. This could include activity code, current who owner, end date, follow-up date, and priority. The next is activity code. It's very similar to activity, but the only options here for criteria are activity code and current who owner. The next one down in the list is claims. This will enable you, again, to reassign any claims based on the set criteria options. As you can see, there are many there. Next is client. This enables you to reassign all clients based on the given criteria options. Take note that active or inactive and prospect and client are not options here. Next is one that many people don't know is available, and it's the company interface activity default. This will enable you to reassign the default who owner on a set company interface. So it could be for one issuing company, several issuing companies, or all issuing companies. Next is default task. Default task enables us to update the configuration on an activity. So rather than reassigning current tasks associated to a specific person, you're updating the configuration on a set activity code and reassigning that default person as the new specific person. Next up is line of business. Line of business enables you to reassign all lines of business currently assigned to one person. We will go more in depth into the line of business workflow here shortly. Next is service. So for those agencies that are using the service module in Epic, you can reassign those services. Next is tasks. And this is the tasks option that you would use if you want to reassign current tasks assigned to a specific person. The last is a workflow, and for those of you who are using the workflows within Epic, this would be an option for you. So let's jump back into a client reassignment and take a look at the other areas of our screen. You'll see at the top there is a reassign to, and you have the option to reassign to an employee or a work group. You would choose the employee that you want to reassign to by clicking on the magnifying glass. You'll look up the employee by entering their name. In this case, I want to reassign all items to Karen Tolbert. Notice there is an option to reassign to blank. The reassignment type, again, is what we've chosen in our dropdown. And then we choose the reassignment role. So what role does Karen play? Well, she is a client service manager. If she had several roles available, they all would appear here in the dropdown. I want to call out that when you're looking at your criteria, most often it is set to exclude. A very common mistake that folks make is that they assume that this is an include selection. So remember, as you're picking your criteria, you'll want to choose include, or remember that by default, most of these are set to exclude. So I'm going to include all client codes. If I wanted to only reassign a certain client, I could choose that by doing ranges and entering those client codes here. Take note though that there are only 3 range options. So if it's a specific account, that is doable, or if you're doing an alpha split, that's also possible. But anything beyond that may be a little more time consuming. Next is the account name. And under the account name, again, you'll notice that it's jumped to exclude. You can include selections and choose all, or again, a range. We're going to leave it set to all. Next, I have agency, and in here, you would choose the agency that you are wanting to utilize. Now, by default, this one is set to include, and so I'm going to want to move down all of my agency codes. Branch, again, I'm going to choose all. And then our client type. Is our client an insured, a prospect, or both? So if the reassignment that I'm wanting to do is both for client and prospect, I would choose both here. Otherwise, if I'm only concerned with insureds, I can leave it set to insured. Converted date typically is set to all. The current employee and role is where you're going to choose who we're reassigning from. So if you had an employee depart from the agency and you want to reassign that employee's clients, this is where you would choose who you're moving. Again, be very careful to be sure that we have include set as our option and not exclude. You'll see because Karen is a client service manager, the client service manager servicing role is what we have here. So I'm going to move down to my available employees and choose the employee that I'm reassigning from. There is an employee and other roles option. So for example, if I'm only moving clients for one producer from that employee to Karen, I could choose that here. And you'll see over here there is a servicing role. And you can jump down and choose any of the applicable servicing roles your agency utilizes. In this case, I'm going to leave it set to all, and I'm going to go ahead and include all options. And then we have our date entered, and by default, I want to move everything in this scenario. Once you click finish here, this saves that workload reassignment. So I'm reassigning to Karen all clients and putting Karen in the client service manager role. If I wanted to add another reassignment, I could do so by moving over to the plus sign. If I need to edit a workload reassignment, I can use the pencil icon to edit that reassignment and make any changes that I need to. If I've decided that I do not need that workload reassignment, I can also delete that reassignment before moving on. You'll notice down below there is a current workload outline, and this will show you that person that you are reassigning to, what their current client activity, premium count, and so forth is. That might be helpful for you when you're looking at maybe reassigning a book of business. Down beneath that, you also have the option to schedule this reassignment or complete it now. So if an employee is leaving as of a certain date and you want to be proactive and make sure that this is ready to be run, you can schedule that out and then prevent you from having to manually do it on that date. So before we process this, we're going to add one more reassignment type. I'm going to go ahead and add a line of business reassignment. So not only do we want the clients, but we also want the policies and lines associated with those clients reassigned to Karen. So I've chosen my line reassignment. I'm going to find Karen in my available employee list. I'm going to identify that she is going to be the client service manager. And then down below, I want to update my criteria. So again, you can see the include and exclude options. It's set to exclude. I want to include all of my accounts. I'm running this for all agencies. I'm setting my first written to include all dates, all branches. Current employee and role, that was Donna. Line date entered is all department. And this is where you can specify if we only want commercial lines policies or personal lines policies, we can do that here. Employee and other roles, again, I'm leaving set to all. I don't want to exclude any policies with any specific people associated to them. My issuing company will be all. Issuing state. Now here you can choose if you want to dictate to reassign any prior business where Donna was assigned or not. Most often, I do not recommend amending any previous items, but only reassigning current books of business. So in this case, I'm going to leave my effective date set to all, and my expiration date, I'm only going to reassign anything that is set to renew from today forward. So I'm choosing today as my renewal date through open. This captures any current book of business. Line service summary stage, I choose all. Line status, again, all. Line type, all. And my profit center, I can choose all. Now again, remember, if you're only looking for certain policies within a structure, you're going to want to use your agency, branch, department, and profit center here. I'm going to go ahead and click finish. And now you can see my next line of business reassignment has been added under the client reassignment. And now you can see the line of business reassignment appears with our client reassignment. If I'm done at this point, I can click finish again. And this now adds that workload reassignment to our list of available reassignments. Now, one really important step before you run a workload reassignment is to preview that workload reassignment. I cannot encourage you enough to preview all workload reassignments, no matter how confident you are that you have these set up right. To preview a workload reassignment, you go up to Actions and Preview Workload Reassignment. The preview will generate and give you a preview report for exactly what you've asked it to run. So in this case, it's showing that we are running a workload reassignment, and then it'll show down below what it is that we're running. Behind that parameter page is an actual report showing what clients we are reassigning from Donna to Karen for a reassignment role of client service manager. As you page through, you can take an opportunity to review the results to make sure that they are accurate. The next page beyond that is for that next reassignment type. So in this case, this is for our line of business. And you can see these are all of the lines of business that will be reassigned from Donna to Karen for a client service manager. Again, this is an opportunity for you to make sure that everything in the report is accurate before you run that reassignment. Once you've previewed the reassignment and you know that it is accurate, you can move up to Actions and run the workload reassignment. It'll make sure that you have previewed the workload reassignment before you continue. If you have, say yes. Epic is going to run that workload reassignment. In this case, I have it prompted to save a copy of the reassignment. This gives me the ability to always retain a copy of what exactly was reassigned at this time. Once that is done, you have completed your workload reassignment. Well, hopefully you learned a little more about the workload reassignment tool. If you need any assistance with a workload reassignment, as always, please feel free to contact Applied Epic support for us here at Kite Technology. We have a library of other Consulting Corner topics, including accounting, security, and other reports, as well as on-demand webinars. If you're interested in viewing any of those, please hop on over to our website.